You pathetic, ignorant fools! I am the ultimate life form. I'm beyond your understanding. With the best fighters of Earth defeated, there is nothing standing in my way of global annihilation.
No. There's still hope. They'll defeat you.
Oh, who is they?
Everyone's got their thing. Maybe it's a breakup. Or an accident. Whatever it is, it used to be one thing, now you're something else. We all have our own problems. Our own issues. Our own demons.
I see. So it was you after all.
We won't let you get away with this.
Who exactly is we?
We are Venom.
That was amazing! You've seen it here first, folks. That was the world's first look at the upcoming biopic epic, starring none other than the one and only hero, Mister Satan. And here with us right now is the man, the myth, the legend. Good evening, Mr. Satan. I'm delighted you could join me here today.
No worries, Jimmy. I'm glad to be here.
Now, I'm sure the viewers at home have a million questions to ask you. Is it true that this upcoming blockbuster film is not only an action thriller, but a pseudo-documentary describing how you defeated the monstrous villain Cell?
That is correct. This movie right here recounts with 100% accuracy the story of how I, Mister Satan, the world martial arts champ, saved the entire world from that Cell freak. Of course, I couldn't have done it without the help of my friends.
Speaking of friends, I hear one of your most important allies is here with us right now.
That's right. He should be here right about now.
I can't believe it, folks. It's really him, the second hero of Earth. It's Venom.
In the flesh. It's a pleasure to be here tonight.
So the rumors were true. You weren't simply a work of CGI, you were real. How does it feel working alongside Mr. Satan and all these people for your role?
It was a fantastic experience. Everyone involved in the production were amazing. They were all very talented people who worked their hardest to bring this movie to life. It has also been very satisfying working with Mark. I've learned so much about this world and its people thanks to him.
Speaking of the world, are the leaks true? Are you guys gonna appear in the spin-off movies of the Sony universe of Satan characters?
Well, our lawyers advised us against talking about that.
Actually, I doubt that. I asked them not to do that movie, but well, we did sell them the rights.
I think that's enough for the interview. Why'd you have to tell them that? Oh, the tabloids will be running off of that for weeks.
Oh, please. Drama always brings viewers. Besides, I asked you to eat their heads off when they pitched the Caroni movie, but you wouldn't accept. At least give me this.
If you say so.
At least the Clean God crossover is cool.
Yeah, it sure is, buddy. Ooh, it's real late. Oh, Videl's gonna be so mad at us.
We should give her a gift, as a way to make it up to her.
Hey, you know what? That's the best idea you've had all day. What would my Videl like? Maybe we can get her one of those Pachenko plushies. I hear those are all the rage these days.
Mark?
Of course, we can't get her the basic plush. We need to get her the best one on the market.
Mark?
Maybe we can get some calls made, and we can have a special, limited edition Mister Satan Pachinko plush made instead.
Mark, get down!
Huh?
It has been over 7 years since the defeat of Cell and Majin Buu. Thanks to the power of the Dragon Balls, the people of Earth have forgotten the horrors caused by the destructive symbiotes. Mr. Satan was hailed as a hero by the public. He even reintroduced Venom into the world as an alien hero who helped him and his friends in protecting them all. The pair were rewarded by the King of Earth, renaming their cities as Satan City in his honor. The Z-Fighters were acknowledged by everyone as Mr. Satan's loyal allies, who helped protect the world. Although it was only Krillin and Yamcha that took advantage of their celebrity status. The rest were content living on their normal lives, at least as normal as they could possibly get. However, this period of peace was swiftly and suddenly broken. One day, Mister Satan and Venom had disappeared, vanished without a trace. They were last seen giving an interview for their upcoming movie. The public was left reeling from the sudden disappearance as the police forces of the world scrambled to find the Earth's champion. The Z-Fighters mobilized to find their friend. Everyone fears the worst. Had he been kidnapped? At Satan City, the Z-Fighters split up to find their missing friends. Krillin and his wife, Android 18, look around the various back streets in hopes that they'll find Mr. Satan and Venom sleeping around in dumpsters somewhere. Krillin notices the street was a little too clean. No trash, no bottles, nothing. However, as Krillin voices his thoughts to 18, he hears a scream. He turns around, ready for anything, and then... The next thing they knew, Krillin and 18 were waking up in the middle of a busy intersection with angry drivers honking their horns, urging them to get out of the way. The couple had no idea how they gotten there, nor how long they were there. They felt exhausted, and their bodies were extremely sore. The last thing they remember is investigating Mr. Satan's disappearance when something attacked them. Something familiar. It looked a lot like Venom, yet something was off. Venom wasn't a mindless monster like he used to be. He was their ally now. Surely he would have tried to talk to them first. This thing was feral and angry, reminding Krillin of the first time he faced Venom all those years ago. Was that really Venom, or was it something else entirely? They weren't sure, but what matters now was returning home as soon as possible. Their young daughter, Marin, was still waiting for them. As the parents reunite with their child, Krillin can only reprimand himself for being so weak. He was exceptionally upset with himself, unable to protect his wife. What if something happened to them? Who would take care of Marin? After letting the rest of the Z-Fighters know what happened to them, Krillin decides that he would return to training seriously once again. But he wouldn't stop there. Mr. Satan and Venom were still missing. Not only that, more and more people were disappearing from Satan City as the days passed. Krillin decided that if he wanted to find his friends and the rest of these victims, he needed to enroll in the District Police Academy. If he becomes a police officer, he could have the resources and the intel to properly investigate these disappearances. As days turn into weeks and weeks into months, Mr. Satan and Venom were still nowhere to be found. As the number of missing people across the world steadily decreases, humanity is gripped in a wave of fear as the public wonders if these disappearance cases are connected. And if some villain like Cell was out there, someone that could have possibly defeated the world champion and was now preying on innocent people. Because of the events, the Venom movie was unfortunately delayed. Now a teenager, Gohan was ready to start his first day in public school at Orange Star. However, on his way to school, Gohan notices several criminals that were in the middle of robbing a bank. Bursting into Super Saiyan to protect his identity, the young man stops the crooks in their tracks. This was becoming a part of their average routine. The police soon arrived as we see Krillin step out of the cop car. As Krillin and his cohorts arrest the criminals, he quietly thanks Gohan for his help. The teen says it's no big deal, he just happened to be nearby, asking if there's any updates about Mr. Satan. Sadly, no, but Gohan will be the first to know. The teen boy sighs in disappointment as Krillin encourages him to get on out there. Gohan thanks his friend for everything and speeds off. As he walks to his morning class, he overhears classmates talking about the latest disappearance. That's anything anyone could talk about. Nearby, a loud voice shouts, yelling at everyone to shut up. It was Videl, facing her classmate with a dreadful glare. As the classroom goes silent, Gohan walks up to Videl, letting her know that they didn't mean to upset her. They're just as concerned as she is about what's going on. In this timeline, Gohan and Videl met each other much earlier in life. They were childhood friends. Gohan catches up with Videl, asking her how she's been lately. Videl falls silent. She was worried sick about her father and Venom, just like the last time he asked her. Ever since they disappeared, Videl had been searching frantically for them, but no luck. She was too busy stopping criminals anyways. Videl's words stick with Gohan as all day passes. Gohan was paying attention to the news and patrolling various cities in his spare time in order to find Mr. Satan. Gohan promises that he would never rest until her dad and Venom were back home with her. Videl smiles softly, thanking Gohan for his his resolve. She just hoped that they could find them soon, as she didn't know how much longer the cities could hold against their new rise in criminality. These words stick with Gohan. Mr. Satan was a symbol of peace. Gohan believed that someone needed to rise up to protect the innocent from these rising bands of scum and villainy. He had been stopping crime as a Super Saiyan, but he wasn't taking it seriously. What the world needed was a superhero. Right then and there, Gohan decided to become the world's symbol of peace, stopping by a capsule corp and asking Bulma for a suit. The next day, Gohan asked Videl to meet him in the school's roof. Videl was confused at first, but once Gohan presses the button on her new watch, her mouth drops. What was that ridiculous costume? Gohan reveals his plan to become a superhero in order to give the world a new symbol of peace, while they search for her father and Venom. With this, crime will hopefully go down, and maybe they'll find something out. Videl sighs, smiling as she decides to help Gohan as much as she can. Although she's not gonna be wearing a ridiculous costume. And so, the Great Saiyan Man begins his superhero career, making his debut alongside Videl, stopping several bus-jackings in their tracks. Some people were put off by the silly costume and the sillier poses, but Videl reassured them that the Great Saiyan Man was a hero, through and through. After solving more high-profile crimes, such as saving the mayor of Satan City from terrorists and stopping the circus ringmaster for enslaving baby dinosaurs, the public starts to trust the Great Saiyan Man and Videl more and more. They even start to receive support from the police, thanks to Krillin vouching for them, and they provide intel to the two of them. Gohan suggests placing a skylight at the police headquarters with the symbol of the Great Saiyan Man. They could shine into the night sky. But Krillin points out that this idea would never work. Besides, they have phones. It would just be a waste of resources. This makes Gohan sad, but Videl reassures him that this is for the best. As a way to return all of the support she was giving him, Gohan accepted to train Videl how to use Ki. She had always known that Ki existed. She had seen her father show it off before, yet she never really learned how to use it. Mr. Satan didn't exactly know how to teach her. After all, it was because of Venom that he could do it at all. So Videl's training could begin as soon as possible. After school, Gohan and Videl would practice Ki control at Mount Paozu. Then the pair would return to the city and patrol the streets, stopping crime and searching for any clues for the disappearance cases. Their popularity soars through the school year as Gohan and Videl grow closer. But Videl never dared to listen to her feelings. She valued her friendship with Gohan beyond anything else, and more than that, she was still far too worried about the fate of her father and Venom. She was laser focused on her resolve, patrolling Satan City well into the night for any sign of them. Gohan had to remind her multiple times that she needed to go home and sleep. They still had school to attend to the following morning. Without Mr. Satan around, Gohan was really the only one left to show any concern for that girl. But Gohan's worry for Videl only grew as time went on by. He noticed early on that Videl was strong, really strong, more than what any other normal person should be. She had never received any formal training besides what her dad showed her, yet she was this strong. Not only that, she was very talented, picking up Ki control very easily. Videl would also go into fits of rage, especially during late night patrols. Sometimes Gohan, as the Great Saiyan Man, would have to stop Videl from beating criminals to a bloody pulp. Her demeanor was changing, becoming more ruthless and paranoid as time passed. She had become a social pariah at school, with nearly everyone except Gohan being too scared to approach her. Gohan didn't know what to do, simply trying to be as supportive as he could. But at times, when Videl was enraged, or when she could use Ki, Gohan could swear that he could feel something within his best friend. Another faint, sinister presence. It felt similar to Venom or Carnage. It couldn't be that she was possessed by a symbiote, could it? No, that was impossible. Carnage was gone and Venom was wherever Mr. Satan was. Yet, Videl's drastic mood swings, they reminded Gohan far too much of his father when he first bonded with the symbiote, back when he was still a bloodthirsty monster. Just in case, he would ask Bulma for some upgrades to his hero suit. Over the past 7 years, Gohan had continued training diligently with Piccolo and Goku. He never forgot the terror of the symbiotes and the despair that they would bring. In case Carnage or Majin Buu or some other new threat ever came to Earth, Gohan would be ready to face them. Goku proved to be the perfect sparring partner for Gohan. Not only was he closer to Gohan's power, but thanks to the anti-venom suit, he could handle whatever punishment his son could dish out. The father and son would train often at the lookout, because they were afraid of causing damage to the planet. Yet, they would still get scolded by Dende and Popo, as their intense battles would shake the entire heavenly realm. Gohan had become an absolute powerhouse, ready to protect the world at a moment's notice. If there was truly any symbiote possessing his friend, Gohan would be ready to save her. No, save everyone. However, it wasn't just Videl that was going through a drastic change. Android 18 and Krillin were experiencing strange events, which they could not explain. At times, they could have severe lapse in memories, where they couldn't remember what they were doing for hours at a time. They constantly dealt with massive headaches, enormous appetites, and sudden mood swings. Krillin wondered if it was just simply stress from the new job, or PTSD from the attack they both faced earlier. Yet, at night, horrible nightmares haunted Krillin. Horrible, monstrous creatures that threatened to swallow him whole, and whenever he attempts to meditate, he felt an unyielding, dreadful presence that left him shaking with fear. Krillin is worried something is wrong with him and his wife, after an incident where Krillin and 18 suddenly woke up in the middle of the night, miles away from home. The couple decided that it was time to go to Capsule Corp. They would need to get tested as soon as possible. After bringing along Marin, Krillin and 18 approached Bulma, who brought them into her lab. She introduced them to Dr. Michael Morbius, one of her most trusted scientists, reassuring them that they have the brightest minds and the latest technology to help them. The pair ran several tests on Krillin and 18, making sure to not leave any possibility unaccounted for. After several hours, Michael and Bulma informed the couple that they have finished the test and that they will receive the results in a day or two. They would keep in touch. However, this wasn't enough to ease Krillin's fears. After returning home, Krillin calls the Sun family residence, speaking to Goku. Once he gets on the phone, Krillin begs Goku to protect Marin and take care of her in case anything ever happened to him and 18. Goku tells Krillin to not worry so much. They'll be alright. Was he that worried about his police job? Yet, once he realizes just how serious Krillin is, Goku reassures him he would take care of Marin as if she was his own kid. This finally gives Krillin some semblance of relief, thanking his best buddy and giving him and his family his best wishes. Maybe Goten and Marin can get together to play sometime. But in the back of his mind, Krillin was still uneasy. This feeling would only intensify the following day. Krillin was informed by his superiors of a breakthrough in the missing person case. His boss, Sergeant Nuts, informed him that the various clues and leads they've been gathering for the last year have all led to the same place, Red Pharmaceuticals. This was their lead suspect, a suspicious drug manufacturing company with ties not only to recent kidnappings, but to a dangerous group of the past, the Red Ribbon Army. Krillin wasted no time in informing Gohan, as the teenager was left in shock. Red Ribbon Army? Are you serious? There's no way. You don't think that has anything to do with the androids, do you? I don't know. But this is our best lead in over a year. We can't afford to mess up here. I don't think Videl is ready to help in this operation. She's far too much of a loose cannon these days. But I need your help, Gohan. The police force needs the great Saiyaman. Of course, I'm always ready to bring justice to those who need it. Just say the word, and I'll be there. Good. We'll be raiding Red Pharmaceutical headquarters tomorrow. I'll see you there. With renewed determination, Gohan and Krillin prepare themselves for the day ahead. However, none of them could have possibly been prepared for the terror they were about to face. A crisis of unparalleled proportions was about to begin. On the morning of the raid, life continues as normal. People drive to work, thinking only of the tasks they have for the day. Android 18 finished dropping off Marin at school, heading off to Capsule Corp, anxious yet eager to see the results of her test, so she can figure out what the hell is wrong with her. She was greeted by Bulma and Dr. Morbius. The good doctor seemed disheveled and pale, more so than usual. 18 comments that maybe he should have some tests done, as Bulma teases the doctor. She doesn't think Pilates will be enough to make him feel better. Her comments are swiftly ignored. As Morbius reads through the notes, he explains that there are mysterious substances detected in her bloodstream. He pulls up the X-ray, revealing a strange set of black specks floating within 18's blood. It was faint, barely recognizable. However, Bulma was convinced she had seen the microscopic material somewhere before, and she was right. She pulled out another X-ray photo with similar black specks. 18 asks what the meaning of this was, as Bulma reveals that this was an old X-ray from none other than Mister Satan. 18 started to sweat, her mind racing. This didn't mean what she thought it meant, did it? Morbius and Bulma look directly at 18 as they announce her diagnosis. A ringing noise pierces 18's ears, coming out of the doctor's mouths as one single word registers: symbiote. It was 9:45 a.m. Videl and the rest of the students at Orange Star High attended their classes as usual. There was going to be a special pep rally being held later that morning. The school somehow managed to book a famous rapper turned luchador, El Muerto, to attend and lead the rally. But there was one student who was noticeably absent. Gohan wasn't there. This left the entire classroom on edge. He was the only one that could calm down Videl. Without him, they'd have to be extra careful around her, especially today. Videl was agitated, more upset and angry than usual. Her conversation with Gohan the night before left her feeling betrayed and trapped. Simply remembering that conversation from the night before nearly brought her to tears, recalling her immense frustration. She thought Gohan would have understood her and her plight, but he clearly didn't. She couldn't trust them, not Gohan, not the police, and definitely not her dad's useless friends. The only one she could count on was herself. Videl's intense feeling festered and bubbled up within her, even as she and the rest of her class settled into the school's gym for the pep rally. As El Muerto introduced himself and started to rap, Videl could only hear faint ringing in her ears, which steadily intensified. Her heart was beating fast, practically leaping out of her chest. She was so mad at Gohan, at the police, at everyone else who had ignored her. Then, something snapped. It was 9:45 a.m. Gohan, as the Great Saiyaman, reunites with Krillin and the rest of the police department for a mission briefing. With the support of the warrant issued by the King of Earth, the police would enter the Red Pharma headquarters and investigate the entire building from top to bottom. No stone would be left unturned. If any evidence of the missing victims or other wrongdoings were discovered, they would be able to arrest the company's CEO and interrogate for more information. This CEO was named Magenta, an enigmatic man who was related to Commander Red, the former leader of the villainous Red Ribbon Army. He and his second-in-command, Carmine, were high-value targets. They would not be allowed to escape. As Gohan prepared for the raid, Krillin approached the costumed hero, thanking him for coming. He leans in, asking Gohan what was wrong. He seemed rather quiet and subdued today. The Great Saiyaman could only sigh as he thought back to Videl. He wished that she could be here to join him. He knew how much this mission meant to her. Gohan had called Videl the night before, letting her know that he would be joining the police in this investigation regarding her father. Videl was excited beyond words, eager to punch the punks who messed with her family. However, her jubilation turned into rage as she learned that she was not part of this raid. She was incredibly upset, cursing at Gohan and the police. Why didn't they trust her? Didn't they believe in her? Was she not strong enough? Did they really think she hadn't earned the chance to find out what happened to her father? Gohan did his best to calm her down, but in the morning, nothing worked. He revealed that he didn't want her to get hurt, but this comment only infuriated her. Hadn't she proven by now she was a capable fighter? Didn't he trust her? Videl shouted a nasty remark. She didn't want to see his face ever again. She hung up the phone, leaving a devastated and confused Gohan. He had done the right thing, right? Krillin believes that what Gohan said was the right thing, even if it did hurt Videl. All actions have consequences. He could see where she was coming from. Having their worth devalued by those closest to them was devastating, but clouded thoughts can lead to openings for their opponents to exploit. What they need right now is a focused warrior. What they need right now was a hero. Yet, this didn't make Gohan feel any better. He understood Videl and her anger all too well. If it was him in her shoes, and it was his father who had disappeared, he'd stop at nothing to find him. What she needed was a friend, someone to stand by her. He didn't think he was being a good friend. However, Gohan's thoughts were interrupted as a screech is heard. It was 9:45 in the morning. This was the time when all hell broke loose. Gohan turned around to face several police officers, backing up in trepidation as Krillin grabbed his head, screaming in pain. The young man asked what was wrong with Krillin as he told him to stay back. The fledgling officer could feel it in his heart. That which he had been pushing away for ages suddenly intensified out of nowhere. The fear, the rage, the self-loathing, every negative emotion was manifesting, bursting from out of his body in the form of sickly violet tentacles. A loud ringing echoed in his ears as Krillin begs Gohan to put him down, his eyes wide out as he's enveloped by darkness. Elsewhere, in a vastly different part of Satan's city and beyond, similar awakenings were occurring. At Capsule Corp and Orange High, massive tendrils of different colors were extruding out from 18 and Videl. They bellowed in pain as their eyes are enveloped by the goo expelled out from their bodies. The students of Orange Star High panicked, rushing out of the gym in a massive, crushing horde. Bulma and Dr. Morbius are shocked at what they see. They were too late. Time slows down as Gohan realizes what was happening. The worst case scenario, the nightmare that the hero hoped would never happen, was unfolding right before his eyes. As the goo surrounding 18, Videl and Krillin condensed, a sharp, devilish mouth with razor-sharp teeth formed on their faces as they let out a mighty blood-curdling roar. The symbiotes had returned. Gohan wasted no time in tackling Krillin, ordering the officers nearby to evacuate the building immediately. This monster was incredibly dangerous. They needed to run for their lives. The officers did as they were told, rushing out as Gohan and the newly kindled symbiote fight. The battle was wild and destructive, leveling many floors of the police office as the symbiote's tentacles flail widely. The Great Saiyaman's costume was torn apart, with massive bloody gashes appearing through his body. The symbiote grabs the hero, slamming him through multiple walls before crashing into the busy city streets, the entire building collapsing from the damage. Gohan is struck by an incoming car as the young man is left reeling. A crowd starts gathering around, curious as to what was going on. Gohan stands up weakly, begging everyone to leave. A screech pierces the skies, silencing the entire city as the symbiote creeps out from the rubble. Gohan can only think of taking the symbiote away from the city before it kills any innocent people. The teen roars, his ki rising, his aura pushing back the onlookers as he declares that he will not allow anyone to harm the people in this city. The symbiote launches at Gohan, but he predicted this, as with a powerful ki, he sends the creature flying across the city. The battle stretches through it as the Great Saiyaman does his best to force the symbiote away from the city. However, his efforts are thwarted as the monster continues to return, eagerly spilling as much blood as possible. It was as if it wanted to cause as much death and destruction as he could, but no matter how many buildings fell or how many cars and streets were left annihilated, the Great Saiyaman saved as many people as he could. This symbiote was stronger than the Venom and Carnage he remembered. Not only that, it was a different color as well, rather than red or black. This one was both, with various shades of pink. However, the pleasure it gained from causing pain was all too familiar. As Gohan demanded the monster to release Krillin, the symbiote screamed and screeched, a cosmic cry that shook Gohan to the core. The beast extended its tendrils, forming several destructo discs and launching them at the hero. Gohan dodged and weaved as much as he could, until one of the discs slashed through his face, slicing his helmet down the middle, blood streaming down as Gohan's anger rose. He saw the destruction surrounding him, the people running, crying in fear. "That's it, I've had enough!" With his secret identity rendered useless, Gohan decides to go all out. He expands his ki, electricity dancing wildly around him as the daunting power of the ascended Super Saiyan is revealed to the world once more. Meanwhile, at Capsule Corp, Morbius and Bulma try to protect themselves from their own rampaging symbiotes. The monster attempts to slash Michael, but in a move that surprises everyone, he manages to dodge the strike and land a devastating punch on his foe. Bulma had no idea what was going on, demanding to know how Michael was so strong. Michael merely smirks, simply saying, "I told you. Pilates work." However, despite how fast and strong Morbius was, he couldn't last long against the symbiote. He is eventually defeated, slammed into the floor, creating a crater in its wake. As the symbiote wraps around the crying Bulma, opening its mouth to swallow the prey, a flash engulfs the lab. The monster is blasted back by a powerful ki blast as Vegeta arrives on the scene. "Leave her alone!" The prince scowls as he saw a slithering creature before him. He recognized it as one of the monsters that possessed him and Goku, but it was more than that. It was as if in that moment, the beast and Vegeta locked eyes. Something within him stirred, as if there was some form of connection, and it was that connection that made them want to tear each other apart. The two aliens charged towards one another in a clash that shattered every window in Capsule Corp. Bulma shouts at Vegeta to not kill it. Android 18 was inside it. The prince simply scoffs. He didn't care about that robot. The symbiote launched several tendrils out from his body, with razor-sharp edges, but Vegeta dodges the attack, grabbing them together with his hands and pulling the monster closer. He extended his hands, charging a ki pole, ready to blast the creature away. However, in a terrifying turn, the symbiote's chest opens up as if it was a massive mouth with fangs. Vegeta's eyes widen as the creature's new jaw clamps shut, biting down his hands. As the prince screamed, reeling in pain, blood streaming from his arms into the jaw of the vile beast, the change began. A transformation that was all too familiar to Vegeta. It was a feeling he hoped beyond all hope would never happen again. A feeling of overwhelming excitement as he heard the cries of his wife wife, the screeches of his horrific foe, and the raging fires around him, Vegeta heard whispers on the back of his mind. It was one simple wish: to release his rage and swallow the world into absolute in maximum carnage. Vegeta's eyes turned white as the blood that was gushing from his wound suddenly covered his entire body. Bulma's eyes widened as Morbius shouted out for her to run. The worst possible scenario had occurred, just as they feared. Just like with Hercule and Goku before, the symbiote that had bonded to Vegeta was never truly eradicated from his bloodstream. And now, because of this battle with another symbiote, Carnage had returned. West City was doomed. Back at Satan City, the battle between the Great Saiyaman and his symbiote adversary continued. Gohan was barely able to hold off the rampaging symbiote as his attention was divided between the battle and protecting any nearby innocent lives. He couldn't keep fighting like this. Gohan knew he had to change his strategy and take the gamble. After luring his opponent to an abandoned building, away from any civilians, the Great Saiyaman taunted his foe to come closer. The beast unhinged his jaw and lunged forward. The superhero struck a pose as he clicked his wristwatch. A very loud, ultra-high frequency sound was emitted from his watch. It was so high that normal humans couldn't hear it, but to symbiotes, it was agonizing. After years of fighting the horrific symbiotes, Gohan had worked together with Bulma to develop this secret weapon against them. He still recalled his first encounter with Venom, and how whistling, a Namekian's greatest weakness, was crucial for their battle. Mister Satan's symbiote was able to eventually develop a resistance, so they weren't sure if this would work yet. They wagered that having a sound at this high of a pitch would be enough to harm even the most resilient symbiote. The gamble paid off, as the creature collapsed on the floor, screaming out in despair as it clutched its ears with its claws. However, the Great Saiyaman's counterattack wasn't done yet. The confident hero aimed his hand forward, clicking another button on his wristwatch as a clear fluid shot out from it, surrounding the symbiote in a white, gooey substance. This was the compound Morbius and Bulma created, based off of the anti-venom cells in Goku's body, almost like a spiderweb. This substance constricted the monster as it burned the parasite from its host's body. The Great Saiyaman outfit was more than a simple disguise. It was built to be the ultimate counter against the symbiotes. As the symbiote screams and writhes in pain, it cries, shaking the foundation of the building. Gohan reached out his hand, yelling out for Krillin to fight back, to regain control and fight the beast. Krillin, please, think about your family. 18, Marin. They're waiting for you. Don't give in to the symbiote. Please, we need you. In his subconscious, Krillin was surrounded by darkness. He was alone in this endless void of despair, but he knew he couldn't stay still, afraid of what dangers would be out there. He heard Gohan's voice. He had to get out. He had to help, like he always did. From within his swirling mind, full of conflicting emotions and rage, Krillin manages to calm himself down with the deep meditative techniques he learned from Kami. Once he regained his senses, Krillin wasn't alone. He saw a twitching being nearby, but the energy he felt, the emotions, it was like a newborn, aggressive, out of control, but mostly afraid, as if all of Krillin's secret fears and turmoil were the very first thing this being had ever felt. He reached out to it, telling him that he could help him. As he stretched his arm towards the entity, it slowly calmed down. His fear became a curiosity, and it reached back with its tendrils. In a flash, a burst of ki pushed back Gohan as the construction site around them began to collapse. Gohan shouted a pained no, the building falling on top of his dear friend. But then, the rocks and the debris were blasted back as a lone figure stood up from the rubble. It was the short man with red skin that twists into purple veins, extending out from his darker lower half. Unlike before, the symbiote wasn't rampaging. It seemed calm, peaceful. Krillin, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm okay. We're
Okay.
You heard me right. This guy isn't evil. He was afraid. Sorry, I had a little bit of baggage myself. Maybe that startled it.
Well, I'm glad you sorted things out with it, but we still caused quite a bit of damage. What should we do now?
We should probably report back to my boss and clear things up. I really hope I don't get fired for this.
However, at that moment, a rush of insidious ki was felt bursting out from the nearby sky. Krillin and Gohan felt it. Its power was incredible, but more than that, it was familiar. Too familiar.
Wait a minute, that ki is coming from the east. Isn't that where your school is?
Videl, her ki, it's changed.
Can't be. Krillin, she needs our help. Got it. I'm coming with ya. I'm sure my new buddy here won't mind tagging along.
Whatever you say. We gotta go. The pair blast off, speeding into the unknown, ready to face another immediate threat. The scene they arrived to was one of chaos. The first thing they heard was screams as smoke poured out of Orange Star High. Previously, during the pep rally, Videl had transformed into a monster, just like her father and Krillin. Somehow, she had bonded with the symbiote and began rampaging. Many students were yelling and running for their lives as Gohan and Krillin arrived. Krillin, who was covered with his own symbiote, screamed even harder as they thought he was another monster ready to attack. Videl's friends, Sharpener and Ereza, saw Gohan. He tried to use his Great Saiyaman voice to tell them that he had no idea who they were talking about, but they pointed out he wasn't even wearing his costume anymore. Sure enough, his helmet was gone. It was destroyed during the last fight with Krillin. Looks like the jig was up for now. Realizing that their nerdy classmate was the Great Saiyaman all along, Sharpener and Ereza begged him to save their friend. 1 second, Videl was just sitting with them, and the next, she was covered in black gunk. She was wild, angry, manic. He needed to save her. Gohan's worst fears were confirmed. With a nod, the Great Saiyaman requested the two students to leave and bring any other nearby civilians with him. Things were about to get ugly. He turned to face Videl and begged her to calm down. She didn't listen. The symbiote roared and it launched at the superhero, but she was quickly repelled by Krillin's sharp tendrils. Krillin had barely calmed his own symbiote. He was afraid to ask him to assist him in battle, but suddenly, the head of it came out of his shoulder, letting out a feral roar of battle. Krillin felt a small sense of pride. Just like him, he was a warrior. It's a tough battle, but Mania is defeated thanks to both Krillin and Gohan's hard work. Their immense power and Gohan's anti-symbiote weapons proved to be enough. Krillin and Gohan had fought with each other for many years. Their trust and knowledge of each other's moves and tactics made them the ultimate symbiote slaying team. With the combination of the solar flare and Gohan's gauntlets, the symbiote covering Videl's body lessened, pulling back to reveal Videl as she falls unconscious. Gohan grabs her moments before she hits the ground, as the warriors thank each other for their hard work. Now that the crisis was finally handled, they needed to figure out what was going on. Thinking quickly, Gohan and Krillin head off to Capsule Corp with Videl. If anyone could figure out how to help her, it would be Bulma. Along the way, Gohan wonders out loud what they should call their new symbiote friend. Krillin mentions the name Taco, but his symbiote speaks up, calling it stupid, calling his host a variety of mean names. Baldy Idiot, Baldy Weakling, Baldy, just to name a few. Krillin mentions that he's rowdy, and this makes the symbiote happy.
Sure, rowdy. Not sure yet.
The symbiote clearly wanted to be the one in charge, which Krillin wasn't a fan of. It wanted to kill its enemies while Krillin wanted to resolve matters peacefully. Fighting them was already a struggle. Not killing them while just wearing them down was toxin for them. The pair questioned the symbiote on what it was and how it was created, but it didn't really know anything. Its earliest memories were of it being in a dark moon, inside an incubator tank. It remembered various humans who poked and probed it, experimenting on it despite not wanting any more pain. Then one day, it heard a voice, a soothing voice telling it to be free. So it escaped the room and headed straight towards one of the nearest places filled with people. It was hungry. When it saw Krillin and 18, it recognized them as strong prey and attacked. Why did it recognize them though? It wasn't sure. But for now, it doesn't mind working together with them as long as it can get revenge on the people that messed with him. Gohan wonders if this had something to do with the Red Ribbon Army and Mister Satan's disappearance, but that would have to wait. They needed to find Bulma first. With the symbiote listening to Krillin for now, the two heroes depart. However, they feel an enormous rise of ki the closer they get to Capsule Corp. Gohan, who was holding on to Videl, and Krillin fly as fast as they can, where they discover a terrible sight. Carnage Vegeta was laying on the ground over the ruins of Capsule Corp, near dead. He was too injured and he could barely heal up as two symbiotes stood over him, a long-haired symbiote and another green symbiote. Toxin's head popped out of Krillin's shoulder, screaming at the creatures as the twin terrors screeched back. Their yells shattered glass across the city as Toxin warned its allies that these two symbiotes weren't like him. They were wild, rabid dogs. They needed to be put down, or else they'll be killed. Krillin didn't want to hurt anyone. These could be random, innocent civilians being held captive by the symbiotes, but he did agree and these two needed to be stopped before they destroyed anything else. The symbiote covered Krillin's face once more as he tells Gohan to put Videl somewhere safe. He'd face these guys first. The hero agrees, but as he's about to leave, he senses it. It was small and faint, but he could feel little Trunks' key. He scans the wreckage to find Trunks, Bulma, and Dr. Morbius. They were covered in blood, dust, and debris. Were they alive? At least Trunks was, but barely. Gohan snaps, his key bursting from the screams as he unleashes his ascended Super Saiyan state. One of the symbiotes fire a volley of sharp, knife-like projectiles at Gohan, who dodges them in a flash, placing Videl gently on the ground nearby. Gohan tells Krillin to pick an opponent. They get into a fighting stance as their foes stare intently. Then they all roar, charging towards one another, their clashing fists creating shockwaves that could be felt miles away. Gohan and Krillin did everything they could to reduce as many casualties as possible, saving people everywhere they saw as they tried to hold back the rampaging monsters. The yellow symbiote had a highly potent scream that was so loud it could blast away skyscrapers. Meanwhile, the green one was incredibly vicious, easily the most feral symbiote they've come across since Carnage. Its numerous tendrils formed into buzzsaws that ripped anything it touched into shreds. Early into the fight, it becomes clear that the emerald symbiote was the bigger threat out of the two. While the blonde monster was strong, it didn't hold a handle to its contemporary, almost as if the host was someone that was already powerful. In an attempt to keep himself calm, Krillin tried to guess the name of its foe, which Gohan didn't think it was a good time to do right now. Eventually, Krillin comes up with two names, Scream for the blonde one and Lasher for the green one. Green Goblin could have worked as well, but oh well. Gohan and Krillin managed to knock the creatures into the air and fire a dual Kamehameha towards them. The beams connect in a spectacular fireball, but as the smoke clears, they see a shocking revelation. A pair of giant key barriers formed around them. The hero's stomach dropped. Those barriers looked familiar. It couldn't be. Krillin shouted out for 18, slamming straight into Scream, and Gohan followed behind. He tried to warn his friend to calm down, but Krillin wasn't hearing any of it, simply shouting at Scream to let go of his wife. His threats fell on deaf ears as Scream bit down on Krillin's shoulder, with his own symbiote biting back in return. The two operations were trapped in an intense deadlock. Gohan tried to intervene, but he was slashed away by Lasher, barely able to withstand his saw-like tendrils. The battle had reached a stalemate as the sheer amount of destruction piled up around them. Back at the wreckage below, Vegeta's body laid motionless. Trunks, who had managed to wake up, had pulled Vegeta out of the ruins of Capsule Corp alongside Morbius and Bulma. He grabs him, shouting to his father to wake up and help Gohan. Those freaks were gonna kill them. He needed to act right now. As tears flowed down the young boy's face and straight into Vegeta's, from somewhere deep within his soul, the crimson symbiote stirs. It screeches, and at that moment, Vegeta's eyes suddenly open. The symbiote covers Vegeta once more as Trunks looks on in fear. Carnage looms over the boy, with Trunks closing his eyes, trembling. But in a sudden move that stuns him, Trunks feels a hand pat his head. "It's alright, Trunks. Your father will take it from here." Trunks' eyes shine as he wipes away the tears, encouraging his father to kick those monsters' butt. Carnage leaps into the air, its bloody tendrils dancing in the wind as it tackles a Lasher away from Gohan, repeatedly stabbing him across the body with his many sharp tendrils. Gohan was shocked to see Carnage once again. What was this? A symbiote bargain sale? However, Vegeta's distorted voice sounded off from Carnage, letting him know that he was in control, and he wasn't going to let the bastards leave this city alive for what they did to his family. Gohan warns Vegeta that there are innocent people inside the symbiotes, but Vegeta shrugs it off. "Whatever. I'm killing those symbiotes then. Something is going to die by my hands by the end of the day." With Carnage on their side, Vegeta and Gohan finally turned the tide of battle to their favor. Anytime Lasher attempted to use his tendrils to saw straight through Gohan, Carnage Vegeta defended him with his own tendrils, allowing the hero to launch a devastating counterattack. Gohan theorized that the people within the symbiotes weren't normal people. If they were who he thought they were, then Gohan is sure they can handle at least a little bit of hurt. Using his full power, Gohan unleashed a devastating uppercut straight into the beast's jaw, before taking his fist and slamming it back down into the creature's chest. With his other hand, Gohan fired a point-blank Masenko as Carnage Vegeta opened his mouth, firing a blazing red ki blast at Lasher, creating a crater in the city below as their foes are sent hurling down. The Saiyans wait a moment as silence fills the air. Suddenly, Lasher pops out of the crater once more, but just as quickly as he appears, Gohan slams his fist back into his head. "Go to sleep,
sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep.
Finally, after so much struggle, Lasher is finally defeated. The monster falls limp as the green goo pulls back, revealing none other than Android 17. Gohan sighs. Looks like he was right after all. Toxin claims that he didn't go after Krillin on purpose, but 17 and possibly 18 were captured and controlled. Was this really the Red Ribbon Army's plan? And what about Videl and Mister Satan? What was their role here? As his mind swirls with various thoughts and theories, Vegeta shouts at Gohan to brace himself. However, it's too late. An ear-splitting screech fills the air as Vegeta and Gohan clasp their ears, falling to their knees. The Saiyans squint, barely able to focus from the intense assault as they see in the distance Scream holding onto Toxin as it roared directly into its face. The symbiote bubbled, peeling back as Krillin was knocked unconscious from the unimaginable pain. It clicks its tongue. Scream throws its defeated foe towards Gohan, knocking him down as it rushes towards Lasher. It clicks its tongue at its ally, a tendril shooting straight into 17's neck. The android's eyes suddenly bolt open as its symbiote covers it once again. Gohan and Vegeta attempt to stand back up, using whatever strength they have left. However, their numerous outstanding injuries have finally caught up to them. Lasher and Scream rise to the sky with a combined and shrill shout. They fired a volley of ki blast that rained down upon the city, reducing it to ashes. Nothing else remained. The symbiotes roared in triumph as they suddenly feel something ringing in their ears, something telling them to do one more thing: come back home. Without another word, the twin beasts fly away into the clouds. When Gohan opens his eyes, he's sure that he's in another world. He couldn't have possibly survived such an attack. Yet, when he wakes up, he realizes that he is still alive. He looks around and discovers he's at the lookout. Around him is everyone that was in West City: Vegeta, Krillin, Trunks, Bulma, Morbius, and Videl. Overlooking them all was the familiar sight of Kami, Mr. Popo, and none other than his father, with his bright white gi and a wide grin on his face. Hey there, Gohan, what did I miss? Goku is filled in on everything, and he is mad. He was sure that this was a threat that was long past, but it felt like they could never really get rid of it. Whoever is creating all these symbiotes is going to pay. He was gonna make sure of it. Goku offers to get rid of Toxin and Carnage, but both Krillin and Vegeta refuse. Not only does Krillin's rowdy new friend get scared, but they feel that they can control this power now, and they might just need it for what's to come. Aside from Krillin pointing out that he's another actual living being, just like Satan's symbiote, Vegeta feels discomfort, as if he isn't actually sure if his is alive or not. But he'll make the choice after everything is dealt with. Krillin feels alive. He feels extra powerful like never before, like he can finally contest with his best buddy Goku, and he won't let that chance go to waste. Goku mentions that he can't wait to spar with him once the matter at hand is resolved. Videl, who recently woke up, also refuses to get rid of her symbiote. She wants to believe it was given to her for a purpose. It was hard to find the right words, but she said that she was feeling a connection to her father, both her and the symbiote to their respective dads. Could it be a more direct spawn of Venom? Gohan was unsure. She's the one that has yet to prove that she tamed her symbiote. At that moment, they've only ever seen the chaos she could cause. But maybe, surrounded by her father and other symbiote users, this could help her. He truly hoped it was the best for her. Piccolo then arrived at the lookout. He wanted to know exactly what was happening back down on Earth. They were all surprised to see him. He had felt the clash beforehand but didn't intervene, as he felt he would have just gotten in the way. Gohan was happy to see his master. He hadn't seen him all day. Piccolo smiled back at him and was able to pinpoint a piece of information which he himself felt. Strange and painful frequencies, which he felt coming from a specific place. Krillin asked if it was the Red Pharmaceutical HQ, but not exactly. It was under it. With the police forces being so distracted due to helping civilians through the wreckage of all the fights, the ones to finally raid the Red Pharma headquarters are the Z Fighters alone, only to find nothing. But thanks to Piccolo's data, they're able to locate the underground tunnel, which connects to other places. They quickly fly around it to discover a massive base full of soldiers. Some in the group disguise themselves to infiltrate the base, while others, like Vegeta, who preferred a more aggressive approach, lowered their ki while they flew around it. They couldn't just destroy everything now. They had to track down the source of all this chaos. Piccolo and Gohan knock out 2 guards and steal their outfits, but when they turn around, they find Krillin and Videl with an already matching set, thanks thanks to their symbiote. The one who didn't have one was Goku, who just really didn't think about it. Videl smirks. Her symbiote was slowly opening up to her aid. Just like Rowdy, she was just a scared baby. Gohan feels a little bit more relieved, but they had yet to see how this would go down. The team finally splits up. Piccolo and Goku take a direct approach towards the main headquarters. Gohan and Videl go around trying to find a lab or any other underground entrance, while Krillin and Vegeta sneak around trying to get a better sense of the place, especially because Vegeta wants to see how much energy it would take to vaporize everything to dust. Piccolo keeps Goku's acting skills on check when they finally reach the main room of operations, discovering the leaders of the Red Pharma, Magenta and Carmine. They were discussing how their project was slowly turning into a success, asking some questions about the nature of the symbiotes when merged with the host, and how they could control both to follow orders. All these questions were being answered by their lead scientist, a redhead they called Vami. She was explaining how it was a double task to try and control the symbiote and the host. Jiro had failed on the programming of the androids, but with the right indoctrination of the symbiote newborns, and using what was left of the mechanical parts of the androids, they were the best suited hosts for their plans, without considering how normal people would quickly succumb and die to them. This explained why Android 18 and 17 were chosen for this. However, this forced union wouldn't be too fruitful in researching the full potential of the symbiotes. Magenta asked what she meant by that. The real power of a symbiote was the development of the union between the host and the symbiote itself, their experience together, and the mesh of their bond. This development is what would eventually become a codex. Magenta asked if this was really so important for the development of their army. She answered that not necessarily the army, but all the content it had. It would be like a deep and complex encyclopedia of the secrets of all the races it contained. That's what they were currently researching with the Saiyans, Namekians, and other types of aliens hidden within the codex of Mister Satan and the source of the symbiotes, Majin Buu. As they say this, Videl and Gohan finally find Mister Satan locked up after following a mental connection which his daughter shared through their symbiotes, something kinda like key sensing. Alongside him was Majin Buu sleeping. Gohan was both relieved to finally find him, but also anxious to see how they experimented on him. Meanwhile, Videl was in a rush to finally see and escape with her dad. She started to yell at her dad, with Gohan asking her to keep the volume down. She easily broke through all the chains and was starting to move him up as he slowly opened his eyes. Krillin and Vegeta were arguing. Krillin was asking if he came to terms with his symbiotes. He was worried about how battle-crazed he became because of it. Tien warned him about that, but Vegeta didn't care about what a Triclops thought about him. Krillin was about to keep going on about it, but he stood in place, surprised. Vegeta asked him what's gone on to him when he saw what he was seeing. Vami asked to change the cameras on the monitors, switching to show the room that Krillin and Vegeta found, a lab with multiple rows of containers, each one having what appeared to be a symbiote, and next to them were many other pods containing duplicates of the Z Fighters. Goku and Piccolo gasped, as Vami kept on saying that with the right army of androids, and with just enough biological content from Buu, they would be adept hosts to have as their symbiote troops. It was only a matter of time until they had enough symbiotes to bond with every single being on the planet. It would be natural selection that the chaotic symbiotes would bond with the stronger tiers, which would be controlled by them. She hoped that soon enough they'd find a way to make any host, powerful or weak, be able to survive with a symbiote. These aliens would be overwhelmed by their own kind. Magenta was delighted. Every step was successful and took them closer to their vision. He ended the meeting, satisfied with the good news, and as he left the room, he asked the soldiers to do the same. Vami, however, requested two of them stay, Goku and Piccolo. She needed some help with the lab labor. Magenta didn't think much about it as he left with Carmine and the rest of the soldiers. Goku and Piccolo approached carefully. Too much of a coincidence. There was no doubt she recognized them. Vami asked to get closer, as she knew who they were. She could sense Goku's Capsule Corp symbiote from a mile away. The fighters made their battle stances, alarmed, but Vami tells them that there's no need for that. She isn't looking for a fight. Piccolo asks what could she gain from all of this. She was only a means to an end, and nothing else for the Red Ribbon's plans, but she argued back that she didn't want any of this. At first, she just wanted to heal the world. Her code name was Android 21. She, just like Cell, was born out of Jiro's machines. She was a bio-android just like Cell, with the same properties of collecting data. However, unlike him, the programming of her lab never stopped collecting it. The symbiotes were too complex for any organism to be collected from his bug-like predecessor. However, thanks to the appearance appearance of Majin Buu, the data was able to match with it and opened the door to have all of the symbiote's genes within her. She was the perfect warrior, but she wasn't looking to harm anybody. Carmine and Magenta discovered her, tracking down the robots that collected the data. She was much more well hidden than the original lab where Cell was, and with how quickly the chaos escalated with Buu, they didn't want to wait any longer. They awoke her shortly after the defeat of Cell, so she couldn't help get rid of the symbiotic aliens invading the world. They told her that they were monsters, but she knew deep inside that they were just as rotten. She did not have any memories of her previous life. However, she was just as smart as the persona she was based on, the original Vommy, and thanks to Carmine and Magenta's little knowledge on science, she was able to hide the fact that she herself was a powerful weapon. Magenta wanted to make more androids. This was the plan. However, something within 21 sparked, something dark. She couldn't control herself, she couldn't speak for herself, but it did sound like her, like the worst aspects of her deep within. She suggested creating not only android duplicates of the Z-Fighters, but with symbiotes of their very own, symbiotes which she could control. Once she calmed down, she believed that she'd come up with this idea on her own, and that it had capabilities of saving the world. She could use all of the resources to do some genuine good, but this wasn't right. She realized this now. This was all a trap by her. She wanted to create these symbiotes for some darker purpose. 21 herself could never fight back against her. Whenever the Red Ribbon pushed their ideas too far, she thought of attacking and showing her true strength. She could only stay in place, frozen, trapped. But with Goku here, they have a chance of stopping everything. She now realized she would never be able to do this by herself. Nervously, she asks Goku to kill her. Goku is shocked, but Vommy continues. She saw the footage, and she knows he can destroy symbiotes. She wanted him to eradicate the demon that's really pulling their strings, the one that resided deep within her. Goku absolutely refused. They could try and take her to Bulma, or use the Dragon Balls, but Piccolo recalled that Bulma had already made some wishes some time ago, which is why they couldn't use Shenron to locate Mr. Satan. This made Vommy giggle. It was funny. Not just giggle, she started laughing. This startled Goku and Piccolo, as her laughs turned into screams. Pink goo erupted from her body as a voice declares that she doesn't like it when she isn't allowed to play. She wished to play so much, but playing scientist grew boring for her, even with all the people she ate as appetizers. Yeah, those so-called disappearances, it wasn't enough. For a long time now, she's wanted to let it all out. Vommy is consumed by a pink symbiote very reminiscent of Majin Buu. In an explosion of ki, Majin 21 showed her true colors. Goku and Piccolo rushed towards her, but she slapped them both. Goku was taken aback, but Piccolo's body broke, with half of his bones being torn. This Saiyan quickly threw a centipede towards his mouth, as he painfully ate it. Recovering quickly, but realizing that he wasn't built for this encounter, Goku's distraction gave 21 a free shot at kicking him far away. The commotion causes the base to go into a maximum security lockdown. An alarm sounds off. The lights in the base flash red as all the soldiers gather together alongside Carmine and Magenta. The aliens were here, and it appeared they infected their lead scientist with one of those symbiotes. It couldn't wait any longer. Magenta orders Carmine to activate their final plan. Piccolo tries to warn them, but still Carmine activates the base failsafe from the room's computer. All the android duplicates open their eyes, scaring Krillin and settling off Vegeta as they burst from their pods alongside the symbiotes, merging together into a single symbiotic troop. Vommy sends Goku crashing down onto the ground, and she started to laugh even more. In a matter of moments, the symbiotes had not only bonded with their duplicates, but also swarmed the entire base. The flying feral symbiotes attached to not only soldiers, but also backup scientists Carmine and Magenta. Underground, Videl could hear a screeching once again, an ever-growing anxiety as Gohan started to feel enormous rises in power levels. Carmine and Magenta are consumed and bonded with their own symbiotes, two of the Class 2 that become Riot and Phage. Krillin and Vegeta got their act together as they flew towards the clones and their symbiotes, ready to start a fight, coming across Goku and Piccolo and regrouping. Vommy laughed in the center. Everything was going just as she wanted. Goku, Krillin, and Vegeta start fighting the army, while Piccolo does his best to survive and take out the weaker soldiers, as Goku uses all of his anti-venom power in Blast to take out as many foes as he can. 21 comes crashing down into him, mentioning that she'd kill him, and then analyze the rebel's symbiote of his. Nothing would stop her and her babies from having a feast upon the world. Earth no longer belonged to humans. It belonged to the symbiotes. Goku wouldn't let her, but he he knew that in his base form he wouldn't be able to do much. He released a powerful burst of golden aura, showing his master state of the anti-venom symbiote on a Super Saiyan, condensing all of his energy and mass into a single body. Vami laughed even more. This would be a feast for the ages. The warriors clashed in a fight of insane proportions, with Goku using all of his newfound knowledge on a symbiotic body to fight with extending body limbs, reminiscent of how he fought with his good old power pole, but 21 was striking back with fierce strength, the anti-venom barely burning her. It seemed like she was mostly Boo, and just barely a symbiote. Back at the containment labs, Gohan and Videl could feel the battle unfolding above them. Gohan was sweating. He didn't know if his power would be enough. The power he felt at the core was unfathomable. Satan was still unconscious, but Venom was slowly waking up more and more, saying sorry over and over again. That it was all his fault. It would take a lot for Mister Satan to fully heal. He thanked Videl and the new spawn, but he put all the blame on himself. Videl asked him what he meant. Then he started to explain. They were kidnapped by 21 herself. From what he was able to hear, Magenta and Carmine weren't fully aware of who did the kidnapping, but she was too strong. She is too strong. During Red Pharma's experiments on them, he was able to find whatever inner strength he had left to create an offspring, his own little devil, to escape the compound and reach for the smartest and most dependable person they knew, Videl. Venom said that he was sorry. He brought them despair. He brought himself to this world. He really was the venom to poison the world. But Videl argued back that it was not his fault, but the people who wanted to use him. Gohan interrupted them as he blasted several symbiote duplicates from breaking into the room. Videl was nervous. She couldn't feel the symbiote powering up yet, but Venom looked at her, at both of them.
You found me, Childs. You do have my blessing.
Videl smirked as her symbiote came out from her shoulder, nodding. They both merged into a single powerful warrior that sparks with adrenaline and starts pummeling down at the symbiote duplicates. Gohan smiled too. He likes that, rushing alongside her to battle together as Venom moves Satan like a puppet, trying to get him out of danger, and releasing Majin Buu from his deep sleep too, though he wasn't sure if it was all the experiments or Buu just being lazy. Finally, he was able to wake him up.
Mr. Boo, join me. I'll take you to the finest chocolate places.
Huh? Okay.
Will you help me wake up our dear friend?
Sure.
Buu used his healing powers to finally heal all that was left of Satan's injuries, healing Venom in the process too, and giving their union a gargantuan Zenkai. What?
We're in trouble, sweetheart. Buckle up.
Explaining wasn't his priority right now. They both merged, and the lethal weapon, Venom, had formed once again. Both Venom and Buu rushed into battle, joining alongside Gohan and Videl, who were relieved and joyful. Their team-up seemed unstoppable, making quick work of them, as Buu used his candy beam to turn most of the androids into chocolate. But as he took one bite, he spit them out. They were gross. And Videl reunited with her father. Venom mentioned that they had to take care of 21. She was the one with the power to keep spewing these newborn symbiotes out. If they didn't stop her, then Earth, and later the universe, would be taken over. Returning to the battle, Carnage and Toxin are interrupted from helping Goku as they're blasted away by Lasher and Scream. Krillin kept trying to calm his wife, but Vegeta had enough of it, launching a final flash with extra arm tendrils towards them, only to be stopped by an android barrier that redirected the blast towards Goku, giving Android 21 a free shot that was blocked by Venom.
The lethal champion is ready for a rematch, lady.
What? She received another hook to the ground as the maniac Videl came kicking in towards her alongside a Masenko from Gohan. Goku takes the chance to help Toxin and Carnage fight Lasher and Scream. Krillin implores to his friend to help them take them out of the trance, and Goku agrees to help. The battle strategy shifts as Venom, Videl, Toxin, and Carnage approach 21, while Piccolo, Gohan, and Goku focus on getting rid of the symbiote's control on 17 and 18. It's a hard-fought battle, but thanks to Piccolo's strategies and Gohan's webbing, Goku's able to launch a clean-focused anti-venom beam at both of them, not destroying the symbiotes completely, but recovering 17 and 18's control into their body. They woke up slowly, immediately confused. Piccolo did his best to explain the situation as fast as possible, and as they heard this, 17 made an energy ball, trapping the symbiotes latched onto them. It was awful, similar to being inside of Cell again, but they weren't at fault, were they? They'd see what they could do with them later. Finally, Goku, Gohan, 17, 18, and Piccolo join the rest of the Z Fighters, facing 21. She says that nothing will stop her from creating a beautiful world for her babies and her to devour, a planet of symbiotes, with herself as the mother. This true persona of her was pulling the strings all along. Satan and Venom screamed out for the protectors to assemble as they all rushed towards 21 in an epic climactic battle to decide the fate of not only the Earth, but the universe. Everyone was giving it their all. Even 17 on his own had proven insanely strong after all these years, but 21 was just on another whole level. The weaker warriors like CT and Piccolo were struggling too much, and even Videl, who thanks to her symbiote inherited Venom's power, couldn't keep up with 21. Venom, Goku, and Gohan were leading the charge, but the half-breed was slowly starting to get behind as the symbiotes entered the cycle of regeneration and Zenkai boost. Still, the more frustrated he got, the more power he released from himself. Catching the attention of Majin 21, he burst his aura so hard that it sent everyone flying away. She rushed towards Gohan, breaking his anti-venom gauntlets with her hands. She can smell Gohan, and his pure body is tantalizing. She can't control herself anymore. She was going to turn him into candy and eat him, to have all that precious info of the Half-Saiyan in her codex. It would be so tasty. But then, a sudden key surge tackled her with great strength. Videl appeared yelling,
Get away from my boyfriend, you bitch!
Videl kicked 21 with an insane level of brute force, as the symbiote and her in unison experienced a Saiyan rage boost. She started to throw attacks non-stop at 21 as the rest of the fighters recomposed. Venom and Satan were still thinking about just what Videl said, but Piccolo interrupted her thoughts as he asked if the symbiote truly had Namekian genes. As he recalled 21 mentioning that earlier, Venom said that indeed, not only did he have Piccolo's own genes that were inherited from his time with Cell, but also the genes and power of the ancient Namekians of old, his creators. Piccolo had a crazy idea that surely wouldn't work. He asked, could he unlock his potential like the Elder Guru on Namek? Venom thought about it for a moment, wondering in grumbles and growls. Nothing was stopping them from trying. Mr. Satan inside was nervous. Was this going to hurt or something? No, not really. It wasn't an attack per se. Venom and Satan put their arms towards Piccolo, concentrating the most they could on all the information they had within their codex. The two saw the remnants of planet Namek past, their birth from the smoke of Majin Buu's essence to a strange spiral as they watched the Namekians of old. From the demon realm to Namek, Venom wished she could have been like this from the very beginning, a hero, but Piccolo's voice echoed over him.
And just so you know, even though you feel like you were born a monster, that doesn't determine who you will be for the rest of your life. Trust me, I know.
As their connection made Venom and Satan see Piccolo's own memories, his own beginnings, the three of them smiled. The path of life put them where they belong, leading up to this very moment. A powerful bright light became yellow, bringing the attention of the Z Fighters as they felt an insane surge of energy. Piccolo had turned into something else. With lime-colored skin, he thanked the symbiote, nodding with his head. He acknowledged his comrade as a true Namekian, while Venom nodded back. He didn't wait a minute. With these insane gains, he started to charge a special beam cannon, though it would take a while. Without a doubt, it would be the strongest beam any of them could pull off. Venom asked what his plan was. She could regenerate from any pain, but Piccolo said that he was going to aim for her head, to try and get her attention even for a split second. That's when they would have a shot at winning. He just needed them to make time for him. Videl kept attacking 21 non-stop, but the Majins started to show just how strong the regeneration and Zenkai combination could make her, as she fiercely kicked Videl towards the ground, retaliating stronger than ever. She shouts out during the battle that she can't quite compare to her. She was just Daddy's little mistake. 21 herself was the ultimate symbiote. She was absolute agony and hunger incarnate. Gohan crashed against 21, a boost of power fueling his rage. She was no mistake. She was one of the best warriors he knew. Venom 2 crash landed against 21, saying that the battle wasn't quite over. Goku kicked her towards Toxin and Carnage, slashing her, only to be pummeled by Buu's gut. She crashed into the ground, but the androids kicked her towards the other side and straight into Piccolo, as the special beam cannon was ready to be fired straight ahead towards the the Majin. Android 21 was ready to evade, but Toxin's Kiensan split her in half. Her body was forced to regenerate once more, but as her top half fell over, the special beam cannon struck her head on, leaving her confused and staggered. She was disoriented and confused as bits of her began to regenerate back up. It was now or never. This was their chance. Goku fired his strongest silver Kamehameha, burning 21. Gohan propelled his own blast alongside Venom, Videl, Toxin, Carnage, Boo, 17, and 18, all helping with their own beams. Agony was fighting back. It wasn't over yet. She was screaming that she could still pull it off. She could still become the queen of the symbiotes, her rightful place as the goddess of the abyss. But the symbiote was melting, revealing Vommy inside. The real Vommy within was fighting to let the beam finish her off, to destroy 21. Gohan had channeled hope for too long. He had tried to be optimistic for Videl, for Mister Satan, for everyone, so he could find Mister Satan and Venom. But deep inside, he always had this inner turmoil. Now that they found them, if they didn't win this second, it would have all been pointless. There was no reason to hide it. Gohan let out all of his inner rage as Goku amassed his full anti-venom power, covering his entire being once more, as both of the opposite beams had an insane surge of power that imploded, finally defeating 21 once and for all. Where the final remaining violet symbiote was screeching, Goku approached it. He really did think Vommy was good, but did this being have any possibility of redemption? He had a weird, anxious feeling, something he'd never felt before. So corrupt, as the violet, agonizing goo glowed a red spiral into it. Goku wasn't sure if he was frozen thinking if he could save it, or if it was pure dread of the energy it contained. However, Vegeta took a step, focusing a small ball of energy that vaporized it completely.
Like I said, I was gonna kill something by the end of the day.
Goku sighed and looked at 21. He could sense that she was a good person. He wanted to help her. It was the influence of her symbiote that was corroding her mind. Her symbiote was something else entirely, something darker. Carmine and Magenta woke up, seeing their base. They still believed the heroes were monsters, but they were whipped up by Mister Satan.
These aren't monsters, they're fighters.
They'd soon be incarcerated. Venom actually congratulated Gohan too. His power was insane. What was that? Gohan just mentioned that he let it all out. Venom and Satan congratulated and accepted his superhero persona. Maybe they could make a few movies together. Yeah, maybe. And as the hulking beast dematerialized into two hosts, Venom returned to say that he was sorry. He brought chaos onto Earth, onto Namek so long ago. He felt better after chatting with Piccolo, but still, seeing all of this over again? Mister Satan told him not to be ridiculous. His symbiote friend was a Venom. To criminals, that is. To injustice. Together, they were the lethal champion, Venom.
But if we are Venom, then what am I?
Satan thought for a moment. You're my strength. You're my power. You're my fist.
Fist. I wanna be Fisto.
Sounds good, buddy. You're my, Fisto. Both of them laughed. Fisto happy with his new name, guilt leaving him as he sang his own name. Piccolo nodded, and Videl approached, being curious about what to call her own symbiote buddy. Maybe naming it was the role of his dad.
Murph?
Videl fell to the ground. What a strange name, but it was okay. They would be an insane team together. Mister Satan, Videl, Mep, Fisto, and the rest of the Z-Fighters cheer in victory. The androids were grateful that they were cured, but 17 didn't really want to kill the symbiotes, since now that 21 was defeated, they were acting like newborn little animals. They were conscious beings, angry and afraid of this strange new world, and 17 knew just the right place to take them, but only if they behave. Monster Island. The warriors agreed to help, and slowly they carried all the symbiotes that remained in the base over to Monster Island. Videl and Krillin decided to keep their own symbiotes for their own good. Vegeta thinks that he'll only take his one out, only if he's able to take out Kakarot's symbiote with him. Goku accepts the rematch offer. Boo and Venom approach Toxin and Carnage, happy to see their offspring. Their offspring? Well, yes. Rowdy was born out of the merger of Boo and Carnage back then. Did this make Krillin Vegeta's son? Symbiote lineage was confusing, and Vegeta just bluntly asked them to shut up. As 17 took the symbiotes with him to the island, the rest of the Z-Fighters regrouped alongside the waking Vommy. She was grateful to help, and would try to make amends for the mess she made. Goku told her not to worry too much, while Gohan considered asking Bulma if she could help her too. They could learn a lot from each other. For now, she just wanted to rest, finally be free on her own body. With the passing days, Carmine, Magenta, and the rest of the soldiers would go to prison. The symbiotes would gather and even train by themselves. Rowdy, Meph, and Fisto would train with Master Roshi Satoshi and become better warriors on their own. To benefit their host even more, Krillin was proud that his new companion and his newfound strength could protect his family. They will learn to live with their other symbiotes and get even stronger, with Vami considering seeking out her long-lost family from her previous life, Dr. Hedo, and getting help from Capsule Corp. Bulma and Morbius would continue to study the symbiotes, especially having all of this new knowledge in the Codex, and Piccolo could happily train Videl and her symbiote alongside Gohan, proud of his student's resolve and curious about his surge of power. Once the Dragon Balls were up to be used, they would return those killed by Majin 21 back to life, and finally fully fix things. Everyone celebrated joyously and victoriously back at home. Boo kept on asking about the promised chocolates, but Mr. Satan and Fisto were upset about something else. The fact that previously, Videl mentioned,
What was that about Gohan being your boyfriend?
From far away, deep within the stars, the angel Whis, servant of the god of destruction of Universe 7, watches closely the events that unfolded with his staff. He thinks the outcome turned out rather well, but his smile turns into a frown. For symbiotes to be around once again after centuries was a bad omen for all life in the universe. He could only guess what could happen to not only Universe 7, not only the 12 universes, but those realms beyond even Zeno. Oh, Father is not gonna be happy about this one.